Within shape layers are a group of tools called path operators that allow you to alter and animate the shapes. Path operators offer shape layers much more functionality, including the ability to draw on the paths. Here we'll take a look at how to use trim paths to add life to our shape layer. So here's a common task that you might run into all the time as an editor, animating a map. And so here I need to get from point A to point B. I need to show my audience that this navigation shape is going to start here and maybe follow up here, and maybe the route goes all the way down to move to our location marker, which is this shape layer that I animated previously. Let's go ahead and take a look at that. It just rotates. So how do we show the navigation path? Well, let's do that through the use of shape layers. So making sure that nothing's selected here, I'm going to create a brand new shape by using the pen tool. And I'm going to predefine this using, I think red's okay, and probably a larger, let's go ahead and make this 30 so we can kind of see it. And let's move this down to zoom in at 100%. And I'm going to create a brand new point. We'll click and drag. I'll click and drag. And here I'll hold down Option to break that handle and move it up this way. We'll move up the street, and we're turning here somewhere. We're getting this little dip here, and we're also coming up over here. So let's bring this down over here all the way to point B. So that's super rough. We can certainly refine that further. I think maybe the path is a little too large. Let's zoom this out and see. We can probably fine tune that later if we wanted to. But for right now, let's go ahead and see that the shape layer is on top here. I'm going to rename this. We'll call that route. And let's twirl this down. And under contents, here's our shape. That's what we just drew out. I'll rename that route as well. And under the stroke parameters, let's take a look at 100% here, or 200%. You'll notice that the ends right here are just suddenly abruptly stop, and it's linear here. That is called a line cap. And right now it's just set to butt cap. And so that's just another word for linear. But I'm going to change that over to rounded cap. And you'll notice that now we have this nice smooth rounded edge. And for the corners, these guys right here, I'm not really a fan of that look, and maybe I want to have it rounded out as well. So look at line join. Instead of miter join, let's turn that to round join, and you'll see that we get a nice smooth rounded corner there. Okay, and let's move back out to zoom out here. And now that we have that, let's go ahead and create a new path operator for our route. Let's go over here to add, and we're looking for trim paths. There's all these different operators here that do some kind of transformation or alters the shapes in some way. What trim paths does is allow us to draw on the path that we just literally drew on here, but we need to see it animated. So we can take the end from 100%, and you'll see from point A, we can start down here at 0. Let's go ahead and set a keyframe at the very beginning here. And somewhere here, maybe by frame 75, we can animate this up to 100%. And so as we preview that, that's looking pretty cool. We have a path that's drawn on there that shows what route to take. And we can certainly refine our path here. I'm going to take my selection tool, and just because kind of a stickler for this type of thing, let's go ahead and just nudge that guy down a little bit. There we go. I feel so much better. Cool. And that animation still retains. One other thing we can do to plus this out is under the stroke, just underneath line cap and line join, we have the option for dashes. So let's hit plus here. And you'll notice now we have the option or a parameter for dashes. It's set to 10. And as we increase this, you'll notice that we now get these little marching ants. And let's go ahead and see what that looks like when we play it back. Wow, that's way cooler. I like that. I think one other thing we can do is, instead of having it static, let's animate this offset here. So we can have these little marching ants move from point A to point B. So even after we draw this line, there's still a little bit of motion moving on here. So let's go ahead at frame 75, or actually towards the end here, at the end of our composition, let's go ahead and set a keyframe, and we'll revert back. And I think this goes back down to 0. There we go. Now we're getting the path being drawn on. We have some marching ants indicating motion, and that's looking pretty cool. I think now let's go ahead and figure out how to animate our navigation shape. So this icon right here, we need to have it follow along with the same path. So we can certainly come through here at the end at point A. We'll go to our transform and hit our position keyframe, and we can certainly click and drag and move this around. And as we do this, you notice that, oh, wait, I got to tweak out all this motion path action. and have it conform to what I had done originally. This could take a little bit of time. There's actually an easier way to do this, of course. Let's go ahead and turn this off. And instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to steal from our route shape. Let's twirl this down. Let's go down to our path. And under path, let's go ahead and select that and Command C for copy. Let's go down to layer 2 for our navigation icon. And under transform position, make sure let's go back to the very beginning frame and paste that information that we stole from the route. And magically, we now have that same path in here and it's already animated. How cool is that? It's not timed out the same, but that's okay because what we can do is take this last keyframe here and move it over to, I think it was frame 75. Let's go ahead and select route, animation, reveal keyframes. And there it is, frame 75. Let's click and drag our last position keyframe for the navigation icon. And while we're dragging, we'll hold down Shift to make it snap to the current time indicator. And when we play it back, there we go. Magically, we have the same velocity and same motion. Let's go ahead and reorder this so that the shape is on top. There we go. I'm digging that. That's really cool. All right, so yeah, that's feeling pretty good. You might want to animate the entire map now and have kind of a move on the map and just focus in on certain parts. So one way we can do that is to go ahead and select all 3 of these layers and let's parent it to the map itself. So I'm going to take my pick whip and select layer 4. And now with layer 4 in place, I can set keyframes here for position and scale. Let's go ahead and start our position over here at point A. Let's insert some keyframes for both position and scale. And somewhere along the way, we're down over here. And then by frame 75, we are now over in this area. And so maybe by this end frame here, let's go ahead and scale this back out so we can kind of see a little wider vantage point of the whole city. All right, when we preview that, all these movements are really linear and robotic, so let's add some easing to this. So select these 2 keyframes and right-click, and we'll go to Keyframe Assistant and Easy Ease Out. And the opposite effect on the end keyframes here, we'll select those, and we'll do Keyframe Assistant, Easy Ease In. And when we play this back, let's see. We're still getting a little bit of jitter motion right here. So what we can do is hit this and right-click and say Rove Across Time. So this middle keyframe is actually going to move into a different spot. It basically evens out the velocity. So now we have a smoother velocity through that middle keyframe. And now we can see it come across here. Let's go ahead and round this out, the motion path here. There we go. So now we can kind of have a constant velocity moving throughout. And in fact, what I'll do is move this last keyframe out over here. And as I do, you'll notice that this roving keyframe moves along to kind of follow suit. So I'm just retiming things now so that my map animation is going to kind of settle in after the icon lands in its final spot in point B. Maybe we go up a little too far up here. So what I'll do is select this keyframe, the middle keyframe, and in our motion path, let's go ahead and bring this motion path up a little bit, maybe over in this area, so we can kind of frame up a little bit more the entire path. So let's preview that. All right, I'm liking that. That looks pretty cool. And we were able to do all this motion here with the path, the icon moving along that same path using shape layers. And we were able to repurpose some of that animation and the work that we did to transfer one piece to another. So path operators on shape layers offer incredible functionality that isn't offered elsewhere. Here we use one of the most commonly used path operators called trim paths, and there's a wealth of other uses for shape layers that is explored further in other videos of the library. I highly encourage you to check out those videos and to experiment on your own.